Welcome back to another video. So CATIA 3D Experience, this will be an overview of the software. So let's take a look at how we can start arranging the UI. Now, let's say that you started part design. So over here within roles, if you're going to search for part design, you can activate the workbench by clicking on it, and that will take you to that workbench. Now, in my case, since I was already within part design, the software decided to create a new product over here. Within CATIA 3D Experience, they will be called physical products, so I can close that. If I will, for example, swap to Part Design Essential, which is the same workbench, but with limited functionality, depending on the roles, you're going to see that it will now state the name over here on top. Also, since I previously changed this, so initially it was like this, but you can grab it over here and can grab and expand that tool palette. Now, let me jump back to part design because we're going to have more features over here. And let's initially start with the resizing. So we can select this. We're going to see that now all the commands will be on 2 rows. You can expand it all the way over here, but I wouldn't recommend that because you're going to lose a lot of the most important view space within the middle of the screen. So something like this, maybe on 2. We can also grab those and move them, but initially let's see it over here. We see the standard one will have a blue pin over there. That means that the features for the standard, which are this one, will be present within all. So currently I'm within Essential. I can start sketching, I can use the features, but I also have those standard features. This is because they have been pinned. If you want to swap the pin, you can just right click and you can pin a different section. And as you can see, that will also be pinned. You can have more than multiple pins. So now all the features within Essential will be brought within the other. If I don't want the standard, I can have those unpinned. Usually the standard, as you can see, will have features such as copy, cutting, pasting, and undo, redo. So usually it's not, in my opinion, mandatory to have it pinned because all of these have hotkeys. So we see redo has a default hotkey of Control plus Y over here, undo the famous Control Z. We can also check an overview over here. So this will not have a hotkey, but you can go and you can check between those. The others are quite popular, so Control V. We have Paste Special, which is quite powerful within CATIA because it allows you to paste an element and you can specify if you want it to have links and other to the existing geometry. And over here will be the clipboard where we're going to see all of those elements that will be kept over there. So this is also something really nice. So we can see that clipboard. I'm going to do a separate video in depth for that clipboard over here. Now, let's see. I will pin the standard one and I will unpin this one. And let's see if I will swap to this one for the modules, we're going to see various features over here. What we see within the structure, so we have the large user interface over here and we're going to have various sections. These are entitled sections, and in order to change those, you can right click, you can go to customize mode, and now within customize mode you're going to see that all of those will have a background over here like a gradient. And if I'm going to right click, we can add a new section. Adding a new section will add another line over here, as we can see over here in this case. Since I have so many over here, that section was added over there, so we can also unpin and pin this. But this was the section. So as you can see, it will add it over here at the top. Within that newly defined section, if I'm going to right click, we can add a group, and that group will add the following. So we have over here various features. Now, we can also add commands. So we can right click, add commands over here, and this will open a window where we can select them. I'm going to show you also more rapid solution for this. So let's say that I want to go within all commands. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to filter, for example, find, because find is quite popular and really useful, and I have many videos regarding this for CATIA V5, and you can do some really interesting selections using that one. We see over here that it's loading a little bit slower but let's see. If I'm going to filter all commands by find, I'm going to find the find. This will be the icon, and I can drag and drop this. Now, this UI is not that, let's say, user intuitive, because you already need to know the commands in order to arrange them. So it's not for beginners. But I'm going to show you how you can also have them displayed over here on the right side. And that will be a little bit more similar to CATIA V5. Now, not sure exactly why the customize feature works so slow, but I'm just going to close it for now. And if you're going to right click on somewhere over here where there's nothing, just the background, we can display the action pad. And the action pad will actually have those elements over here, and we can see those. For example, the new body, I can drag and drop those. Within this section, you can also rename it. Let's entitle this 3D comparison. And let's say that we want drafting over here. If you're going to drag and drop that, you will see that it will also move it. So now I will need to move the draft back in order to also keep it on the action pad. So keep that in mind over here as well for that body, and we have the geometrical order over here as well. But once you move those over here, you're going to see that they will also remain. You can also change the position for this. And this is just, let's say, a more rapid overview. Since most CATIA users are not using a lot of hotkeys, this is why they decided to make it such customizable UI. We see over here we can create also a new group. And if you're going to right click and exit customize mode, that background over here for all the features will disappear and this new group. So it will become like this. You can now have it resized according to the needs. Also keep in mind that while you are over here, let me just rename this. So it should be comparison. We see it over here. It's not the full name. So let me see if I can further expand this to the sides. So this will be the product tree, and as we can see, this will cut the last name over here. If I will close the action pad, it will be the same. So pretty weird, in my opinion. If I'm gonna drag and drop that, it will look like this, and now I can have it resized. If I'm gonna pin it back again, now we're gonna have the full name. Okay, that's pretty odd, but as you can see, you can fix that. Now, while you are within customize mode, you're going to see that all of those features will have a background. You can also interact with the model, but in some cases, for example, over here, I can enter the sketch. It will allow me. But now, if I will try to maybe change the value, this will also work. But if I will try to exit the app using this button, it will not work. Why? Because I'm currently configuring the features over here. So CATIA doesn't really understand that I want to click the exit sketch. It thinks that I want to drag and drop that button and put it somewhere on the UI. So keep that in mind when you are working with this. It's usually not a good idea to customize and also work at the same time, but this can happen, and I decided to show you this within this video. So let's exit the customization. Now I can properly leave that sketch, as we can see. We can also enable over here the app options. So if you're not familiar with this will mainly contain various settings that are done within CATIA. For example, we have over here the user selection filter. And most people, when they are getting started with CATIA V5 or maybe now with CATIA 3D Experience, they will find this point icon and they will think, okay, I can draw a point with that, but it will actually be the user selection filter. That means if you're going to select that, you're going to try to add some points. What this actually do will only let you pick points. For example, points will be those end vertices. So keep that in mind that this app options will integrate many filtering app options. It's the same for people that learn, for example, SolidWorks. They will click on, let's say they will use the hotkeys and they will press on edge selection only. And after that, they can no longer work properly because the software will only allow them to select that type of element. So keep that in mind. The same for surface, and if I'm trying to select the vertex or the edge, it will not work. So this app options is customizable over here as well, so keep that in mind. You can make it visible over here. We also have over here the object properties. So object properties, it's mostly regarding the overall general properties of an object. For example, if I will select the chamfer, I'm going to see over here the graphics. So the color, we see over here, it's currently set to automatic by default, and this will have that blue gradient for the selection. If you want, you can have that changed, as we can see over here, and it will only affect that one. So if I'm going to see over here this pad, this will be again set to automatic. But as we see, it will now remain like this. So the chamfer will be with yellow over here. This is the graphic properties. You can also change the transparency over here for each individual feature. Let's say that I want this chamfer to be see-through, and now I will have that transparency added to that. I can also change the line type and the other features. I usually would recommend to leave this on automatic because the colors within CATIA are really important. And now that they have this white background, even though for sketches, in my opinion, is not the best color composition. So we have it with this green over here for those elements that will be constrained with black. For this, it's a little bit better than within CATIA V5, in my opinion. Now I'm going to close that object properties, and within display we have the product tree. And if you are familiar with CATIA, the hotkey will be F3. I know that a lot of people that are learning CATIA are struggling. For some reason, they press F3 by mistake, and they no longer have that product tree. So that is quite convenient. We can also have over here the geometry, the visual quality. So depending on the specification of your computer, it's recommended over here to have it set on various settings. In my opinion, I will leave this to recommended, but keep in mind that if CATIA 3D Experience is lagging for you, I would recommend to go over here and maybe go over here for fast, and that will maybe fix those problems. We have over here the ray tracing part, so if you are having a video card that is not that powerful, you can also do some changes over here. There are also some advanced settings if you want shadow, highlights, ambient occlusion. I will not get into detail over here, but again, if you are struggling with the specification of the computer, visual quality is somewhere where you should start in order to optimize your CATIA. We also have the status bar, so for older people that use CATIA, you will know that you can type in over here, for example, C plane, and this will give me a plane. I can rapidly add that. And it's the same as within CATIA V5, but it's no longer by default over here added. This will also give us the input. So we see over here, press OK when completed. If I'm going to try to do a find, it will select an object or command over here. And I'm prompted over here with various information, either selections, as we can see over here, this will be a face for the part body. But if I'm going to try to maybe do a cut over here, this will tell me select another geometry or press enter or space to validate. So I can drag over here the distance and I can press enter in order to validate. And we're going to have that over here. Currently this is set within a new body, so this is why the cut hasn't been done. If you're not familiar with this, you're going to find information regarding part structure, what is a part body, and why exactly this cut wasn't processed over here, because it's in an individual body. Now let's see some other aspects regarding the UI. For example, over here, we're going to have this drop down. So if I'm going to use now, let's say auto fillet, this will remain the one active and I can start do my selection. But keep that in mind that the last feature will remain over here active. And we see over here that this is not the current active body if I'm trying to fill it because I'm working in part 2. So in order to swap that, just like within CATIA V5, we need to define in work object. And now I can start applying those fillets over here. Okay, so that will be a fillet of 5. What else do we have regarding the UI? There will be some areas where we're going to have some of the elements hidden like this. So you see this gray arrow that is pointing to the right. By default, this is hidden. So if you're going to click on that, it will expand additional elements. Those can be configured over here within the customize. We have over here add section, and that will actually be a group over here. So those groups they will be nested within a section, and they can be made to be collapsible like that. So you can also organize it a bit better with those over here. We can also reset all customization. So usually if you are getting started with CATIA, and most likely that is why you check this video, I would recommend to leave it to the defaults. Now, some other aspects regarding this, keep in mind that you can unpin everything over here. For example, this one, entitled 3D comparison, I can move it. If I'm going to move it all the way to the top, this will be nested over here. So this will make it more similar to CATIA V5, because I know a lot of people, at least it was my, let's say, I prefer to put commands on top, on the sides, and CATIA didn't have this bottom panel, so they were mostly onto the sides and on the top, or maybe on the screen. For example, if I want to move this AR VR, I can also nest them over here. So as you can see, it should appear over here. Let me just grab it by this. So I have those over here docked. You can also unpin them if you don't no longer want to see those. But usually it's a good idea to have them pinned. Otherwise, you will need to click on that arrow, pin them over here. And it will be the same. If you want them, you can put them to the side. So this will be more similar to CATIA V5. They will be added like this. And you can drag them. And as you can see, CATIA will automatically arrange those so that they will be added like this. You can also have additional information. For example, this will be for cave configuration. If I'm going to press F1, keep in mind that this user assistance will always appear over here on the right side. So this is why it's not usually a good idea within the newer version of CATIA to keep it like that. We're going to see over here on top when they are added like this. So they are no longer side by side. They will be into separate categories. You're only going to have the initial for that. So this will be A from AR, VR, and this will be 3 from 3D comparison. So again, you can pin those differently like this, and you're going to have access to that full name. And as I said previously, it's usually a good idea to keep this section over here cleared. This will be the compass, so I wouldn't recommend overlapping the compass because the compass in CATIA is really important. And if you're just gonna jump onto one of those, for example, maybe you don't know what pad is extrusion within CATIA, you can press F1 and this will give you the information over here. You can scroll through it. I also would recommend to maybe go all the way to the bottom, and afterwards, as you can see, it's not perfectly fit. So this image over here will be added like that, this one over here. So usually it's a good idea to hold down Control and scroll over there so you can better see the whole text over here and also the images. If you find this to be quite small, depending on the resolution, you can again scale this or zoom in while holding down Control and zooming in and zooming out. You can also reset the zoom if you want it to go like this to the default. Now I'm currently still within customization, and let's see another thing that we can do. I'm gonna exit, and you see over here, if I'm gonna right click, I can hide the section. So let's say that maybe I don't want 3D comparison to be over here, I can hide that. And we can also show hidden sections. So once those have been hidden, we can have them displayed over here and they will reappear. And I also want to discuss this one, so display icons and text. If you're not familiar with CATIA, by default it will only have them like this, so pad. So maybe you don't know exactly what pad, even though that icon is quite intuitive. You can right click, display icons and text, and this will give you also the additional information. As you can see, this is not by default enabled. Within other tools, it is, but it does occupy quite a lot of space over here. So for the modeling section, I will have to expand it like this. But if you are working on a large screen, you can easily do this without any problem. And once you're gonna get used to those icons, you can then swap to only show those icons because you already know exactly what feature you want to select. Okay, so this was an overview. What I also want to discuss is the fact that by default, snapping to grid is enabled in 3D Experience CATIA, and this is something that should be, in my opinion, changed. Let's see how that acts. For example, if I will start a positioning sketch over here, and I want to start sketching something over here, so let's say maybe a line, and you're going to see that the initial point will just go to the grid. So maybe you are thinking, okay, I will just disable the grid, I don't want to see it anymore. But as you can see, it will still snap from 10 to 10 millimeters. So it's quite annoying when you want to do some sketching. So in order to clear that, it will actually be located over here. So within sketching, if you're going to go on this drop-down list where you have automatic dimension constraint, you're going to have the snap to point over here. So I'm not sure exactly why they added over here. It's not that intuitive. Within CATIA V5, it was easier. You can just have that unchecked. And now you can add those lines freely, and you can start sketching as you prefer. So you can also make those fixed. They also added those additional tools over here, so you no longer need to go and select those tools. Okay, so this was an overview regarding the user interface within 3D Experience CATIA. I know that a lot of my viewers are working with CATIA V5, and maybe they also want to transition to 3D Experience, and this is not an easy task. Even for me, it was quite difficult because I'm so used to CATIA V5, and over here things are just a little bit different. So it takes a little bit of practice, but after you manage to understand how this UI works, it will be a lot better than the legacy CATIA V5. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this kind of comment. If you also consider to transition to CATIA 3D Experience, let me know in the comment section why exactly is that. I know that a lot of companies have started to roll out towards 3D Experience CATIA, and I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of people will make the transition. Okay, so if you find this video useful, consider to check the video over here on the left. And if you want to support, you will find the subscribe button over here to the right. So that's it. Thanks for watching.